So here's a topic um, that I feel like I have no idea how to approach. Um, uh, I sincerely think that maybe what I'll share today is just going to be uh, a drop of sand in the desert that I think where I stand on the topic right now, it is almost just like a preview of how much there is to it. So, I guess some background is um, I've kind of always felt that maybe we have like a really goofy view on love, um, particularly because it seems like it's a word that is used very often, but its meaning doesn't seem to be consistent as often as it's being used. And what I mean by that is that the definition of love that you might think about when you watch a Disney movie might be very different than the definition of love that you seem to notice from certain parents. But even with parents, it seems like even they give different definitions of what it is supposed to mean. So th- it feels like it's a topic that has a lot of kind of like conflicting ideas. Um, one of them being this idea that it's conditional, that people some people will say, oh, I will only love you if you do this. There's all these kind of like rules and conditions, all these almost like it's like love is bound by these job descriptions or these requirements. um, and so that always felt kind of, I guess, like odd to me, or incomplete, I guess maybe it's a better way of putting it, if not confusing. And at some point, not that many years ago, I stopped using the word or the idea of love in my general vocabulary, and I started using more the word or the idea of um, respect, like pure sort of respect. Um, However, uh, last year, or I guess it's 2 years now, um, I was at this event, and it's like a week long event, and people from all over the world come to the event. The event is it's really chill. There's only like, even though it's a week long, there's only 2 days that are kind of like you're actually sort of supposed to be somewhere, but the rest of the time you're basically just hanging out and doing different kinds of like activities and meetups with all the attendees that are going, and there's hundreds of things going on, so you can just go to whatever thing resonates with you. So um, generally you're not always going to the same stuff because everyone's going to different things, and certain things have limit and capacities to how many people can be there and all those things, right? So I'm at this event, and on one of the first days I bumped into this girl, and when we I guess when we first saw each other, there was like a gravity. It was something that just felt like we kind of like connected, but we didn't really talk. And then throughout that week, and again, these events are kind of like going on at random, and you're going to whatever feels right. Um, I would accidentally keep going to the wrong event. I would be planning to go on one, and then I'd end up in another, and it would turn out that she was there. And I would go do something, or I would go kind of like take a break and then show up somewhere else, and then it would turn out that she was there. And so this thing kind of kept on happening throughout the week, and almost right before the event ended, for a series again of, I guess, synchronicities or things that just perfectly lined up, Um, I was hanging out with some people that I met at the event, and then I got um, lost from the group, and then the group ended up going for dinner. And when I ended up joining them, it turned out that she had joined the group. So we were having dinner, and we were having all these really cool conversations. And eventually, she kind of like turned to me, and she was like, "Hey, Rafa, did you get this connection? Did you also feel this connection?" And I've had that connection before throughout my life, but I don't really like approach it. I don't really like bring it up. Um, and this was like the first time that someone reciprocated that feeling. And so it turned out that we both kind of like felt this gravity pulling us together in a sense, and that the gravity was like really powerful, especially after kind of like establishing a common ground of that level. And so after we had dinner, we basically went on a walk throughout the city. And the dinner ended at like midnight. So we were out there just walking around and sitting in parks um, for probably like 4 hours. Um, and during this time, we were holding hands. We were kind of like holding each other extremely tightly, um, and all these things. But the interesting thing was, uh, she was dating someone, and I was talking to someone uh, whom I was very interested in establishing a relationship with. So the two of us sort of had this unspoken sort of line that we would not cross because of those other relationships that we had. And because of this, I feel like this is why this moment was so profound, that I think we've learned from maybe like our peers or from society and all these things, that um, the way in which you approach people that you have a strong connection with is that it needs to become a relationship, that you need to start dating, that you need to do all these things, that you need to start having sex or doing whatever it is that your kind of like culture defines or doesn't define. And because we had that very hard set limitation, it's like all throughout my life, I've learned that whenever you feel that connection, if we say that this is kind of like a road, whenever you get that connection with someone, you always turn right, and that will lead you towards dating. That will lead you towards marriage. That will lead you towards whatever it is. Instead of turning right, I turned left, and it led me to almost like a completely new planet in which I realized that I can have an incredibly strong connection with someone, and that it does not need to go past a certain level. That it is almost as if that connection is like a type of energy, it's like a type of emotion, and that you can have that and channel it through other ways. And I think this is, I feel like, really the reason I can talk on this topic at all, or that I can talk on love at all, because I think this was the determining moment in which I was like, okay, I know what it is that maybe people are trying to talk about when they talk about it, even if it might have such a messy definition. I think this is what we're trying to get to. And so from this moment onwards, I think what, like, part of where this has led is that it has made us realize that there is so much more, like a whole another, like I mentioned earlier, planet or even a universe more of what this feeling or maybe what this environment maybe it's not a feeling, maybe it's more like an environment called love, of what it is, how it manifests, and how it is that we can utilize it, how it is that we can kind of like ride its wave, with not only the people that are maybe our significant others, but also just the people that we have around us. Just that by sort of like embracing that connection, embracing that power, you can create sort of like this environment around you in which whoever it is that you're interacting with from a more maybe like holistic or more like understanding perspective. And so, kind of like I mentioned earlier, or like I mentioned at the start, this is kind of like where I'm at with this now. I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to like use it, I guess, like consciously. I don't know, like I don't really understand where it is that I stand, because it almost feels like, although I stumbled into something immense, I also feel like we don't really have a language for it. We don't really have a way in which we can put it into words, in which we can recognize it, in which we can understand it, and in which we can make more sense of it, or figure out new ways to approach it, and all these things. So I have no idea like where this feeling is gonna lead. That person and I are now incredibly good friends, and we speak pretty often, and we still have like a very, very powerful connection. So I guess in a sense, like this is more like a type of like chronicle of seeing how it is that this idea evolves and manifests throughout the rest of my life, and to see, I guess, for those of you who've had those type of connections with people, I would also love to kind of like hear about what has been your experience, how you've approached it, how you have not approached it, and just generally kind of like your thoughts on this space, I guess. I guess the other thing that's, I guess, tangentially related to this idea and this like gravity that pulled the two of us together is that it also feels to me like maybe the people that we gravitate towards with such a strong pull, that maybe some of those people are sort of like a web that, and the reason I say that is because I connected really well with her during that event, and she connected with people in kind of like her own experience of the event that it turned out that I also connected really strongly with. And by the time the event ended, we had basically the same group of friends from the event. And then when we went to that same event the year after, we had this group, right, because of the year before. But then the group expanded. And the people to whom the group expanded were people that almost like all of us had bumped into and had really connected with individually. So then it like naturally grew. It's like say if for example we had like 5 people in the group, and a new person that wasn't on the event the first year came the second year, that person almost bumped into all 5 of us individually and connected really profoundly with all of us. And then it just turned out that she was part of the group, or that he was part of the group, and that kind of thing. And it seems like that continues to happen, not only at the event, but on our regular lives. And so that is definitely like another piece of sort of like this story that I want to explore, that I wonder if to some degree this, if we say that love is a sort of like environment, if that environment also somehow fosters us to gravitate towards certain individuals with whom we have a very like unique connection to. Not to say that we can't connect to everyone, or that we can't connect to most people, or that we can't connect to new people. But that maybe there's certain people with whom our lives are very that maybe there's certain people's whose journeys are very much interweaved with ours in ways that we cannot really put into words, but seem maybe even more real than words.